Things that surprised me about Tenerife. I just came from a press trip to Tenerife, and y'all, this island was not what I thought it was. Let's get into it. Hello, my name is Clementine Fana, but you can call me Dr. Clem, and I teach people how to travel the world better in a more sustainable way, taking part in adventure, cultural experiences wherever they go, and without making it boring. If you want to be a part of this adventure, make sure you follow me, hit the subscribe button so that you can be notified of all the amazing adventures that I'm doing. I also help people find remote work opportunities so that you can have more time, location freedom, and also more money to do the things that they love. If you also want to be a part of this adventure, drop it in the comments below and I will share with you the link to my YouTube channel that focuses specifically on remote work. Let's get to the nitty-gritty of things. Now, I just came back from Tenerife, and before I took this trip to Tenerife, the only thing that I knew about the Canary Islands was that they are islands in Spain and it's sunny and they are beautiful islands. So before doing this trip to Tenerife, I actually did a little bit of research, because every single time I want to go to a new destination, I always do some research to find out what should I expect, or what will the destination be like, right? And in fact, on my Instagram, I always post something like expectations versus reality to see if my expectations actually match the reality. And it's a way for me to check myself, really, not to say that destination should look like what you expect it to look like, but it's a way for you to check yourself and to check your internal biases. So going to Tenerife, then having done my research, I realized that it's one of the largest Canary Islands, and this is an island where people usually go for like the beaches, for the party, for the luxury life. But when I went there, I actually went there for an adventure trip, right? I have recently found my love for the outdoors. Having lived in Dominica, the Caribbean, for several years, I fell in love with nature, and having traveled to more than now 29 countries, I would say, around the world, I feel like I want to connect more with the nature, more with the culture, and more with the people wherever I go. And I didn't know Tenerife was this destination. So the first thing that surprised me about Tenerife was the fact that it's a very, very green island, and it's also very much about nature and adventure. During my trip there, I did a lot of adventures like hiking. We hiked different volcanoes, different mountains. We did a lot of outdoors. We did some kayaking, paragliding, snorkeling, diving, mountain biking, and so forth. I was really impressed to see that Tenerife is actually that girl. Like, it's this island that you can have these adventure sportsy experiences if you want. You can also have adventures where you just kind of like connect with the nature, and if you want to just have the beach life and the sea life, you can have it as well. Speaking of beach and sea life, the second thing that surprised me about Tenerife is the fact that it's actually an island of black sand beaches. A lot of times when people think about beaches in Europe, they think about white sand beaches, and that is also a common assumption that people actually have even about the beaches in the Caribbean. When you talk about the Caribbean, people think about, and Tenerife is not in the Caribbean, I'm just making a connection. When you talk about the Caribbean, people usually think about white sand beaches, but an island like Dominica, where I've spent like 15 years and upward, is a volcanic island, right? And so they have black sand beaches. So for me, having lived in a volcanic island, I understand why Tenerife has black sand beaches. It's because it's a volcanic island. So that was also surprising to me to know that it has gorgeous black sand beaches, because before I didn't really know about all this about Tenerife. The third thing that surprised me about Tenerife is one of the top destinations in the world for whale watching. Yes, now I'm gonna make another connotation with the islands again. I lived in Dominica for several years, and Dominica is the first island where I did a whale watching experience. The second time I did whale watching was when I was in Portugal, in Albufeira, the Azores, and on that trip we saw like 27 whales. Now Tenerife is the top destination for whale watching, and if you are ever in those kind of experiences, I would definitely recommend exploring Tenerife. Another thing that surprised me about Tenerife is the climate diversity. Now when we got to Tenerife, first tour guide that we had our experiences with, thank you Naira, her name is Naira Sanchez, and she was talking about the microclimates in Tenerife, right? Now I was like, I understood what she was saying, but I think it's one thing to understand somebody talk about something, and it's another thing to actually experience it. So Tenerife has such a climate diversity where, first of all, the south of the island is different from the north, and even depending on where you are, there are also microclimates. Microclimates are basically like smaller pockets of climates that kind of like change based on where you are. So I just found it so amazing being there. Like, if you drive a certain distance, you're going to feel like very warm, and after that you feel very cold, and then you feel very warm again. And even within our hikes, we had some of the most amazing hikes. You must check out my video experience of the trip to Tenerife. During our hikes, as we're walking through different landscapes, there were different microclimates. So I think it shows it it speaks to the climate diversity, but also the fauna and the floral diversity of the place, which makes sense why it's also why many of its national parks and rural parks are also UNESCO World Heritage Sites, which takes me to the next point of things that surprised me about Tenerife: the abundance of UNESCO heritage sites and biospheres, right? So because of the different microclimates, because of the different types of fauna and flora in Tenerife, they have multiple sites that are UNESCO World Heritage Sites and biosphere sites. So a lot of researchers from around the world actually go to different parks in Tenerife for them to explore floral varieties, explore different plants, do some research on those fields. So it shows that it's a very in-demand destination for this type of research, and they also have the types of plants, flowers, fauna and flora that you will not see in different other parts of Europe. Okay? One thing that surprised me was finding out that Tenerife is also a top destination for stargazing. I never knew that people go to Tenerife for stargazing, but during our tours, our tour guide Nara, again, hi Nara Sanchez, she was telling us about how people go there for stargazing. They take like expeditions just for stargazing. If you travel to Tenerife for adventure or even just to have your little luxury life, you can actually include 2 or 3 days of stargazing just to have the experience. So it's really very popular for stargazing apparently in Europe, so it's definitely something worth checking out. One of the things that really surprised me about Tenerife, I kid you not, is finding out the historical connect with Africa. Now, we know that many places in Europe were points of connections or like transit passage during the transatlantic slave, right? And Tenerife is one of these islands. In fact, according to history, Tenerife, the first inhabitants in Tenerife were the local indigenous. The first inhabitants in Tenerife were from North Africa, and they were called the Wanches. They were considered the local population or the indigenous, and so they made roots in Tenerife before European colonization or European conquest came. And if you trace back where the Wanches came from, the Wanches actually came from the coast of North Africa, and they are more associated with like the Berber tribes in Africa. So that includes like people from Niger, and also people from a lot of people from sub-Saharan Africa. So because of that, then you can see that in a lot of the signage, a lot of the memorabilia, a lot of the souvenirs from Tenerife, you will see a pictorial description of what the Wanches look like, and even in their culture, like the food, right? The culinary experiences and the delicacies in Tenerife now are a combination of African cuisine and Spanish cuisine. So that was really surprising to me, because I never made that connection that the first inhabitants of Tenerife were actually Wanches, who are descendants of North African Berber tribes. That's really good to know. Another thing that surprised me about Tenerife was actually a popular film location. Specifically, 2 movies were filmed in Tenerife: Clash of the Titans and Fast and Furious. Okay, cool. It's good to know that you are on an island where trailblazing and very popular movies were shot. And the reason why they were shot there, you will imagine, was because of the beautiful landscapes that Tenerife affords, right? And when you check out the video that I did about my experience, my travel in Tenerife, you will really see this difference in landscapes. Like in some areas, you have like the views from the volcanoes, you have the mountaintop kind of views, you have the green, islandish kind of views, you have the beach views, and it's really like a landscape diverse island, and I definitely recommend you visiting it. The last thing that I would say was really surprising for me to learn about Tenerife was their carnival is actually the second largest carnival in the world after Rio de Janeiro. So the carnival of Santa Cruz apparently is so popular that millions of people, okay, I don't know if it's millions, but like a lot of people from around the world travel specifically to experience the carnival of Santa Cruz. And if you know, based on carnival in the Caribbean as well, a lot of the Caribbean carnivals that were originally traditional Caribbean carnivals also now for lack of a better word, because of the European influences within the Caribbean islands. Now, the Caribbean carnivals are now a combination of the traditional carnival and those European carnivals. So this is where you kind of like understand why the way the people do costumes in the Caribbean right now, why it looks like costumes that you will wear at the Santa Cruz Carnival or the Rio de Janeiro Carnival, right? So Tenerife has one of the largest carnivals in the world after Rio de Janeiro, and it's the Carnival of Santa Cruz. I would definitely love to explore Tenerife during that period, the period of the Carnival of Santa Cruz, but you know what? That's probably for another trip. So if you want to find out more about what Tenerife looks like and why you should consider this island for your adventures, especially if you love to escape the winter and if you love the outdoors, make sure you check out my vlog about traveling to Tenerife and let me know what you think. And if you like this video, you will definitely enjoy the video where I talk about the top things that you need to know before visiting Tenerife up next.